The story begins with a sense of urgency as a reporter passionately broadcasts the return of a schoolgirl to mainland Japan. This girl is no ordinary survivor. She has emerged victorious from the deadly game known as Battle Royale. One might expect her to be haunted by the horrors of killing her classmates for survival. Yet when the camera captures her face, she greets the audience with an unsettling smile, filled with a sinister calm. The narrative shifts to focus on Shuya, a troubled middle school student. Shuya's life has been marred by heartbreak. His mother abandoned him, and his father took his own life. Struggling with these traumas, his only solace is Noriko, a gentle and polite classmate who regularly attends class, even when she is the only one present. Their teacher, Kitano, has grown weary of the student's unruly behavior. One fateful day, as he exits the classroom, a mischievous student stabs him in the leg without warning. Deeply wounded, physically and emotionally, Kitano resigns from his post, vowing never to look back at the students who caused him such pain. A year later, Shuya and Noriko are in high school. Their class embarks on an educational trip, and for a time, everything seems normal. The students laugh and chatter, enjoying the journey. However, partway through the trip, Shuya wakes up to find an eerie stillness. All of his classmates are unconscious, and the bus driver and conductor are ominously clad in gas masks. Before Shuya can react, the conductor notices him awake and swiftly knocks him out. When Shuya regains consciousness, he finds himself in an unfamiliar classroom surrounded by his groggy classmates. They exchange confused glances, trying to comprehend their predicament. To their horror, they discover strange metal collars secured around their necks. The room's tension thickens as helicopters descend outside, accompanied by a swarm of armed soldiers. Among them is Kitano, their former teacher, now wearing a stern expression. Kitano addresses the bewildered students, explaining that they have been selected for Battle Royale, a brutal survival game. Kitano then plays an instructional video to explain the game's rules. A girl, whispering to a friend, disrupts the presentation. Without hesitation, Kitano throws a knife, striking her in the forehead and killing her instantly. The students erupt in panic as the grim reality of their situation sinks in. Silence falls as they reluctantly finish watching the video. The video reveals the game's conditions. The students are on an isolated island where they must fight until only one survivor remains. Each student will receive a survival bag containing random supplies and a weapon. The collars on their necks are equipped with microphones and tracking devices. If they attempt to escape or break the rules, to heighten the stakes, Kitano warns that if more than one student is alive after 3 days, all the collars will explode, leaving no winners. Fear grips the room as Kitano demonstrates the deadly capabilities of the collars. A panicked student disrupts him, and Kitano activates the collar, causing it to explode and killing the boy. The horrifying display leaves the class paralyzed with fear, compelling them to reluctantly accept the game's terms. One by one, the students receive their survival bags and are sent into the forest. Each bag contains basic supplies, but the weapons vary in usefulness. While some receive guns or knives, others find themselves armed with items as trivial as a pot lid or binoculars. Shuya and Noriko leave the classroom together, trying to process the chaos. As they venture outside, they witness the aftermath of the violence. One of their classmates stumbles from the forest, an arrow lodged in her throat. The sight confirms their worst fears. Some students have already begun killing each other. Before they can regroup, a boy armed with a crossbow attacks them. Shuya and Noriko flee, leaving the attacker to confront another classmate. The two seek refuge in a cave where Shuya tends to Noriko's injured arm. However, their situation seems grim. Their bag contains only a pot lid and binoculars, woefully inadequate for defense. Elsewhere, Kazuo demonstrates his merciless skill. A group of students confronts him, hoping to eliminate the experienced outsider. Armed with determination, one of them approaches with a gun, but Kazuo swiftly disarms him. In moments, Kazuo kills the entire group with cold precision, collecting their weapons to continue his bloody rampage. Meanwhile, Mitsuko, a seemingly quiet girl, transforms into a ruthless predator, killing a friend without hesitation or remorse. The next morning, Shuya and Noriko encounter another classmate armed with an axe. In the ensuing struggle, Shuya defends himself using the pot lid and accidentally causes the boy's death. Overwhelmed with guilt, Shuya presses on, knowing he had no choice but to survive. Shuya and Noriko are soon confronted by another frightened student, trembling as he points a gun at them. Before the boy can react, Shogo appears and shoots him, taking his weapon. Recognizing Shuya and Noriko's unwillingness to harm others, Shogo agrees to protect them. Together, the trio witnesses two girls using a megaphone to call for unity. The girls plead for everyone to join forces and find a way out. Shuya attempts to approach them, but Shogo holds him back, sensing danger. His intuition is proven correct when Kazuo arrives, mercilessly gunning down the girls. For his final act of terror, Kazuo uses the megaphone to broadcast the girls' final screams, ensuring that his presence strikes fear into the hearts of anyone who hears it. The grim battle for survival continues, each moment pushing Shuya and Noriko closer to a confrontation with their own morality and will to survive. The story continued with Mitsuko stepping into the dim, shadowy warehouse, her body aching and her mind heavy with exhaustion. She hoped for a quiet moment of rest, but her sharp gaze quickly caught sight of another figure in the gloom. A girl stood by the far wall, her posture tense and her hands gripping a gun. The moment their eyes met, the girl raised the weapon, her expression a mixture of fear and determination. She recognized Mitsuko immediately and knew she wasn't one of the trustworthy ones. Mitsuko's heart raced, but she didn't let it show. Instead, she slowly dropped to her knees, her hands raised in a gesture of surrender. Her voice, shaky but pleading, begged for mercy. With a swift, concealed movement, she pulled out a taser and fired it at the girl. The girl's body convulsed as she dropped to the ground, stunned. Without waiting a second, Mitsuko picked up the gun and fired, ending the girl's life with chilling efficiency. Elsewhere on the island, a group of boys huddled around a flickering laptop in a rundown shelter. Their faces were tense as they worked tirelessly to hack into the collars that kept them tethered to this deadly game. If they succeeded, they believed, they could escape the island together. The quiet hum of the computer and the occasional click of keys were the only sounds, but their determination was palpable. As night fell, Shogo, Shuya, and Noriko found a small, abandoned warehouse to rest in. The silence of the night was broken only by their cautious whispers. Shogo, his face shadowed in the dim light, finally opened up about his past. "This isn't my first time playing this game," he admitted. His voice was heavy with regret. He explained how, in the previous Battle Royale, he had survived with his closest friend, but the rules demanded only one could leave alive. His friend, in an act of self-sacrifice, pretended to betray him, shooting him in the leg to provoke him into killing her. "She forced me to live," Shogo said, his voice breaking. "I've never forgiven myself for it. That's why I came back, to find a way out without anyone else dying for me." Their conversation was interrupted by the sharp crack of gunfire outside. The trio froze, their bodies tense. Outside, Kazuo was hunting another player, a young man wearing a bulletproof vest. The vest rendered Kazuo's bullets useless, but he was relentless. With brutal efficiency, Kazuo switched to a sword and decapitated his opponent. The gruesome act was followed by an ominous quiet, but it didn't last. Kazuo, hearing noises from the warehouse, smirked darkly. He picked up the severed head, shoved a grenade into its mouth, and lobbed it through a window. "Run!" Shogo shouted, and the three of them bolted out of the warehouse just as it erupted in a fiery explosion. The blast sent debris flying, and the heat singed their skin, but they were alive. Shuya, wanting to give the others a chance to escape, ran out into the night to distract Kazuo. He led the deadly hunter on a wild chase, but found himself cornered near the edge of a cliff. Kazuo's gun clicked empty, his ammunition spent. Shuya seized the moment, diving into the water below just as Kazuo lunged at him. The next morning, Shuya awoke to the soft light filtering through a window. He found himself in a lighthouse, his wounds tended to by a kind girl named Utsumi. She explained that she and her group of friends had decided to stick together, believing their unity would give them a better chance of survival. Shuya felt a flicker of hope, but not all was well within the group. One of the girls harbored a grudge against him. Her friend had been killed in a fight with Shuya earlier. Fueled by vengeance, she poisoned a portion of food meant for him. Her plan backfired when another girl unknowingly ate the poisoned meal. The group watched in horror as she collapsed, vomiting blood, and died. The room erupted into chaos. The girls screamed, accusing one another of murder. In the escalating panic, one girl grabbed a gun and began firing wildly. When the shooting stopped, everyone except for the vengeful girl lay dead. Shuya, hearing the gunshots, knocked on the door. The surviving girl greeted him with a tearful apology before fleeing to the top of the lighthouse. Shuya entered the blood-soaked room, his stomach churning at the sight of the bodies. He chased after the girl, but when he reached the top, she'd already thrown herself to her death. Elsewhere, Noriko dreamed of a quiet conversation with Kitano, her former teacher. Unlike most of the students, she had always shown him respect. In her dream, she told him she understood his pain, being ridiculed and dismissed. At the same time, Kitano sat alone, reflecting on his life. A call from his family left him feeling even more isolated. His daughter insulted him and hung up. It was the culmination of years of neglect that had led him to embrace the brutal Battle Royale program. Later, Noriko wandered through the forest, lost in thought, when she encountered Mitsuko. The older girl sneered at her, mocking her for always relying on others for protection. Mitsuko raised her weapon, ready to attack, but froze when Kitano appeared unexpectedly. Without a word, Mitsuko fled, leaving Noriko trembling. Moments later, Shuya stumbled upon them, his body weakened by his injuries. Kitano silently handed Noriko an umbrella before walking away, a gesture of kindness toward the one student who had treated him with dignity. Elsewhere, Mitsuko encountered another player grieving over a fallen friend. Wasting no time, she killed the girl. Before she could move on, Kazuo attacked her. Their fight was vicious, with Mitsuko using every ounce of cunning to stay alive. She tased him and swung her sickle with precision, but Kazuo's bulletproof vest shielded him. With brutal efficiency, he shot her dead. Shogo, Shuya, and Noriko eventually made their way to the hackers' hideout, where a group of boys worked tirelessly to disable the collars. Their plan also included rigging explosives to take out Kitano and the soldiers. Just as they completed their work, Kazuo ambushed the hideout. In a desperate bid to stop him, one of the hackers detonated the explosives, sacrificing himself and killing most of the group. The trio arrived to find the devastation, and Kazuo, though blinded by the explosion, still alive. He fired wildly, wounding Shogo, but the injured boy fought back and finally killed Kazuo. At the shore, Shogo turned on Shuya and Noriko, revealing his true intentions. He had only used them for protection. Now he aimed to kill them to ensure his survival. Shots rang out, and Kitano declared the game over. In the final confrontation, Kitano revealed his own despair and was killed before he could harm them. The survivors, Shuya and Noriko, escaped by boat, but Shogo succumbed to his injuries. Together, the two remaining survivors reached the mainland, vowing to start anew and leave the horrors of the island behind. And with that, the movie ends. We hope you enjoyed the video. Watch the next recaps on the screen and don't forget to subscribe for more amazing recaps. See you in the next one.